We're live. Hi, everyone. Welcome. And thanks for joining me. I host this conversation every Tuesday at 12 o'clock with different business owners and sales trainers and managers on different topics to light up my network with actionable ways to improve your business so you can be fabulous today. Today, my guest is Dr. Nancy Zare, I should say. Nancy uses her knowledge of psychology. She has both her master's and doctorate from Boston College. Nancy teaches self-employed professionals how to increase sales comfortably, even if they have no previous experience selling. Welcome, Nancy.
Thank you, Susan. So excited to join you. Thanks for having me.
I know this is going to be great. What's really cool about it is I always think about when I talk to people and I go to a networking event and they say, I'm not a salesperson. And I say, oh, really? What's your favorite restaurant? And I go, oh, that's awesome. Why do you like that restaurant? And I say, well, you just sold it to me, so I guess you are in sales.
That's a great illustration because I agree with you. We sell all the time. We just don't think of it because our definition of sales is kind of warped. We think of sales as exchanging a service or product for money. But anytime you try to influence a decision, that is selling.
I love it. Anytime you influence a decision, it's the truth. And it's not, I mean, I think salespeople get a bad rap. It's not a bad word to say I'm in sales. It's awesome because if you help and serve people and you develop a relationship with them, then it's a wonderful thing. It's a wonderful thing because you both gain from the experience. And that's why I love being in sales.
See, you immediately framed it from the perspective of helping and serving, which is so you, Susan, and very much myself as well.
Absolutely.
Other people think of sales as transactions. Well, from the perspective of a transaction, they may or may not be helping anybody. The goal is instead to complete the transaction. Whereas where you're coming from is really, can we build this relationship and how do I help you up level and bring you to wherever it is you want to go? And
Absolutely.
that's a different sense, right?
Right. Absolutely. And so it leads me into a question. So I obviously picked up some of this from your LinkedIn profile in your about section, and I feel the same way. Why do you think people are shy about self-promotion?
I believe that it is coming from multiple factors. And, I'm a psychologist, so some of it is coming from psychological things of being afraid and perhaps not being given a good dose of self confidence as a younger person. And so you may be carrying some baggage with you, which makes you shy about self promotion. I also think that for a certain group of people, that self promotion has equaled hype. And so when they think of somebody who comes on aggressively and strongly and is basically pushing and being themselves, that's what they are concerned about. They don't want to be perceived that way, behave that way. And so this is another factor I think that makes them shy about self-promotion. Would you agree?
I would totally agree. And I think that people feel that they're being pushy and aggressive when they're really not. They're just explaining in a passionate way what they do. And if what they do aligns with the person that they're talking with, it's like I said, it's a great relationship. And if it doesn't align, you part as colleagues or, you part ways, and it's not a bad thing. It happens.
So you just said something very key, explaining it in a passionate way. See, there are four different ways that people sell and people buy. Four different personality styles. I call them buying styles or conversational styles or selling styles. And there is one of those styles that is extremely passionate. And for the other three styles, that passion is misinterpreted as, oof, it's aggressive, it's pushy. as opposed to its passion. And so you need to observe your impact, your effect on the other person. And if the other person is open and enjoying the passion and the energy, then go with it. But if that passion is turning them off, and you can tell through body language, vocal qualities, etc., then guess what? You're going to have to dial it back,
Right.
because what I teach and promote is to adjust your communication style to match your prospect's buying style.
Yes, that's very interesting, Nancy. And I have known you for, sorry, I'm going to lose my voice. It was a busy weekend, um, a long time. And you have been talking about your likability system for a long time. Tell us about it.
So the likability system, there's 5 steps. Step number 1 is to recognize that there are four different ways that people are biologically hardwired, programmed to make decisions, to communicate, and so forth. And you may know them as personality styles. It's been centuries in researching these. That's step 1. Step 2, what's your style? Why is that important? We tend to sell the way we buy. So understanding your style is a key to being able to observe the impact you may be having on others. The
Mhm.
third is to be able to identify the other person's style. How do you diagnose and figure out what their style is? I have 6 quick ways that my clients can do this. It takes about a minute. And the fourth step is to then adjust your style to match the prospect's way of communicating. And the fifth is to downplay or discard the parts in you that are not matching up, because we want to continue the rapport and continue building the relationship. So, that in a nutshell is the likability system.
It's awesome. I love how you named it that because, we all want to be liked. And if you learn how to discuss things and talk with people, and I also talk about using emotional intelligence, meaning you have to understand your emotions and you have to understand the other person that you're talking to's emotions. And you can learn that by the answers that they give you and the questions that you ask them. I find that if you ask a lot of questions in the beginning, you may be able to figure out their style a little bit easier. What do you think?
Well, certainly questions can help you figure it out, but actually, what I teach is how people talk, listen to their vocal qualities, how people dress, what are they wearing, how are they accessorizing and decorating their bodies. 3 is their behavior. 4
Mhm.
is how they write or correspond. 5 is go to social media, because you'll see not only pictures of them, but
Absolutely.
also their written words. And the 6th is how do they decorate their personal space, which, because of Zoom, nowadays we are getting a bird's eye view into how people
Yes.
decorate their home or office.
That's great, Nancy. All valuable things, and it's all things that you can use to have and build that relationship with somebody and build it in a way that's meaningful for them. As I say, it's about the other person, it's about serving them. And if you're taking the time to learn about them in all different levels, it will make the relationship and the conversations that you have with them much more productive.
Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. So tell us, um, what are the differences between the four buying styles?
Me too. Glad you
You
asked
knew I
that
was going to get
question.
there.
Yeah. So I label the styles with numbers. Now, other people, you've probably heard words like disc, or you've heard their colors, their animals, birds, dogs, fish, and so forth. I'm going to give numbers, because the numbers represent how many contacts are needed by the decision maker before he or she can make up their minds. So, our number 2 style is that very fast decision maker. They are lickety split. They value freedom. They want to go forward. They can't wait to get things done and off their plate. They're low hanging fruit, but just as quickly as they decide, they could go somewhere else. So you better nail them down on your first conversation. And then we've got the number 4 style. And this style takes about contacts plus one to make up their mind. Why did I say plus one? This is the one with the cold feet. They will return things, cancel, no show, ghost you. Because if they think it's about the transaction and not about the relationship, they get scared and fly away. So, this is a person who values relationships, friendships, bond. They want an authentic connection with you.
Awesome. Yeah.
And then we have the number 6. I call this person the average buyer because, as you and I both know, Susan, it takes about 6 or 7 contacts for 70% of the sales to get made. So, hence, this is your average person. What are they doing during that time period? They're checking your references, they're reading testimonials, listening to their network of friends. Who have used you? What's your experience, your history, your background? And then
Yes.
our final buyer is our number 8. And this is the person that takes a minimum of 8, maybe more like 12 to 20 contacts, because they're taking a deep nosedive to learn everything they can scientifically through research, through experts about your product or service. They're going
That's
to take a
yeah.
while to figure it out. So, those are the 4 styles, and those are the differences, not only in terms of making up their minds, but also the criteria by which they're going to make a decision.
That's interesting. So have you found with social media over the last, say, I have to say 10 years, probably longer, that number of times and touches that you have has gone up based on
You're
your
right.
psychology?
You're totally right, Susan, because in this digital era where people are relying on not real time, but I send you a text message and then eventually maybe you're going to read it and maybe you respond or maybe you don't. There's this big time delay. And as a result, it's not the same as when right now you and I are talking in person, we're live. That is a full contact. But if we were trying to type out our questions and answers to each other, there would be this big time delay, and that kind of slows the process and makes more contacts necessary.
I agree. And in the fact that a lot of phone systems these days, people don't really answering their phone as much. And
You
I'm
are so correct. That phone tree drives me nuts. I bet it does other people as well.
It does, because when you want to reach somebody and you hit a phone tree, there's no way to get out. So you have to have multiple and different ways to have your sales strategy be a very defined process. And it can't just be one or two things. It now has to be multiple ways. And obviously the personalities, I think, like there are some people that would rather talk on the phone. There are some people that would rather email. There are some people that want to just message you through LinkedIn. So that whole understanding the person and their style and where they want to be, and where they want to meet you and where they want to talk to you.
One of the most effective questions we can ask nowadays is, how do you like to communicate best? Would you prefer the email? Would you prefer phone? Would you prefer a text message? I mean, how do you like for us to communicate?
Mm-hmm. You're right. And one other thing I was thinking of too is the LinkedIn profile. I go back to that. I've been teaching people how to use LinkedIn effectively for the last year or two. And so many people have their profile set up as their resume, and no one wants to read about you. They want to know how you can help them. And so,
Oh, so true. It's about benefits, not about features. And a lot of us get hung up with the benefits of, or the features, like the fact I have a PhD, so what? What does that mean? Well, it means that I understand human behavior and I apply it specifically to buyers and sellers. I give you x ray vision into the mind of the buyer so that you can increase sales. Now, that's a benefit.
Rob is absolutely right. You need to communicate with people in the way they communicate. And that's part of what you talked about with learning their styles.
I
And
call
that's,
it the platinum rule, Rob, and you may be familiar with it. The golden rule is treat others the way I want to be treated, which is humane. But the platinum rule is treat others the way they want to be treated. I want to walk in their moccasins. I want to see through their lens. I want to understand the world from their perspective and speak their values. Because when you adjust your language to match their values, they say to themselves, oh, you get me, we're alike, and they relax, the trust builds quickly, the sales resistance drops away, and it opens the door to doing business together.
Absolutely. I completely agree. And I think it's when you're learning someone's style, you're learning how to communicate effectively with them. And that's a confidence skill. So if you can learn someone's style and communicate with them effectively, that's only going to help you and it's going to help them as well. So effective
You're
communication,
right.
learning styles, all these things develop the right relationship with the right people. And I had a coach about a year ago, and he used to say, do you, and you will attract the exact right people to you. And it's somewhat true, but yet you can adjust yourself to try and accommodate and meet some of these other people where they're at.
So we have all four styles within us, as you know, Susan, just in a different amount, in a different order.
I agree.
Usually two of the four styles are, one is strong in the workplace and one is strong at home.
Right.
And we often shift back and forth between those two styles. Hence, I would recommend that at least two of the four styles become your ideal target market, your ideal avatar, so that these are the people that, as Susan just said, when I speak their language, they listen and I attract them.
Exactly. You're absolutely right about the personal versus business, because I know that I'm completely different personally as opposed to professionally. That's interesting.
And I am as well. Um, it turns out that it's very common, percentage wise, for most of us to shift between two styles. There are a few select people who perhaps are what I call triple hitters. Three of the four styles are very strong and very high. And honestly, less than 1%, less than 0.11% of the population can do all four styles. It's a Buddha, it's a Jesus, it's somebody like that who really have the capacity to just open their hearts and be all styles.
Yeah, no, that's totally true. Um, I had a question, and I had to, let's talk about following up.
That's a good one. In fact, I have been dubbed at times the master of follow up. You know, you and I both realized that the fortune is in the follow up, and the majority of people, they don't follow up. And I think it has to do with the fact, again, they don't want to be pushy and aggressive and annoying. And so they follow up. And first, let me tell you the statistics, it'll blow your
Oh, I love
mind.
it. Yes.
Of You met somebody, say right now, you and I are meeting. Are you going to follow up with me? Well, only 48% will do so. Okay, so the large majority, they don't even they let it go. And of that 48%, half of those will follow up more than once. Okay, so they
Yep.
tried once and now they follow up twice. Well, of that, again, half will try the third time. And yet, remember, 70% of sales are made after six follow ups, six contacts. Hence, if you're not following up, you are leaving money on the table.
Absolutely. But on conversely, when in the process do you decide that you're spending too much time following up with people that are not going anywhere? So there's a fine line.
Oh, there is, but as you and I both know, there are something called drip campaigns. You know, this is where the digital process comes in handy because
Yes.
you put them in some sort of auto responder, and they get your newsletters unless they unsubscribe, and that tells you that they're no longer interested.
Correct.
Otherwise, you know, the best sales advice is you follow up until they say, "No, get out of my life."
Yes. Or they unsubscribe from your newsletter. But there, like I said, there is a point where you have to decide, am I done following up with this one and do I move them to, you said, like a
Yeah,
direct a campaign as
yeah,
opposed to and finding new people. And so there
which
is
is
quite the
Yeah, which is the reason
balance.
why many of the autoresponders nowadays allow us information about did they open the email, did they read a portion of it, and so forth, or did they watch a portion of a video, whatever, so that we can make those judgments. Because clearly, if somebody is taking that kind of action, then they do need our nurturing. They do need to build the relationship. I'll share a quick little story, Susan. My colleague Mary Peckus, she and I wrote a book, No Pressure Selling, and started a virtual call center back in the 80s before virtual and call center really existed. And she served Fortune 500 companies, and she would make both outbound and inbound calls for her clients. At any rate, this particular business owner, um, every 3 months, she would call her back. And at the end of the conversation, or maybe it was even a very short conversation, the woman invariably would say, "No, not interested." And Mary would say, "Well, with your permission, may I, contact you again in 3 months?" This went on for over 3 years. It was probably around the 13th or 14th contact. Mary
Uh-huh.
called up, and the woman said, "I've got my credit card in hand. Let's get started."
It's awesome. I
It
had that happen as well. Yeah.
she fell off her chair, but it was a big order. So you see, the follow up was worthwhile. So again,
Absolutely
you
agree.
got to the consistency and being true to your word is very important in the sales process.
Absolutely. So back in the day, when there was phone booths, I used to go lock myself in a phone booth and I would dial until I at least got one appointment. And I had this one guy, his name was Norman, and he worked for I think it was like a meat packing company. And I was selling electric. Well, it was, yeah, I was selling electric contracts when they first started for a very large company. And he'd say, "Call me back next month." I go, okay. And so I'd call him back the next month. He'd say, "Call me back next month." And literally, totally was testing me. And I'm telling you, 7, 8 months. All right, Susan, I'm ready to see you. That's
So
follow up.
this person was both a number 8, taking that many contacts, but also the number 6. See, the number 8 needs to do thorough research, but the number 6, it's about the consistency and the fact that you were true to your word. And those are the important characteristics that help this person make a buying decision feel safe, secure, and smart.
Absolutely. It was in his hands, and I followed up and follow up. And it's interesting. So you remember back in the day, I used to have the box with the cards, and you did the 1 through 31 and then the different months. And so now we have a CRM, and you can set it up and it can automatically once a month do it. You don't have to set the task or anything. So there's so many ways to stay in touch with people and make sure that you're not losing anybody in the mix, that you got to set your strategy
Well,
and do.
and you and I, before the show began, were talking about one of the systems that I use, which is to send a greeting card,
I
a
love it.
personalized greeting card. And I can't tell you how many big sales I've made because I sent a card and brownies, a gift of some sort. A small token, nothing that was outrageous. But again, I constantly am getting compliments on the cards I send, and people have them on display on their bulletin boards, refrigerators, cupboards, wherever. So that is a
Agree.
subtle tool for somebody who is shy about self promotion, because it's
Uh-huh.
about the person, not about me. It's about them. And the message is not a sales message. It's about, "I enjoyed our conversation. Thank you so much for your time."
Nancy, I couldn't agree with you more. It's one of those, the old ways can come back and be new, because back then people were getting a ton of mail, and now hardly anybody gets personal mail. So it is a new way to be different and stand out. And it's back, and I love it.
Yep, yep. I
That's great.
agree. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, this has been a great conversation, Nancy, and I thank you for being here. And I hope the audience learned it's about intention to serve and figure out their personality style so you can speak their language, right?
That's
And
right.
make
And
sure
if
to join me. Go, no, go ahead, Nancy.
And if you are curious, this week in LinkedIn, check out my posts, because I'm offering a lot of sales tips and also the opportunity for you to learn about your style.
Absolutely. That's great. And I will put your email in the chat. And I will also be starting to do some sales tips now that I'm moving a little bit away from LinkedIn. So that's going to be great. So everybody can learn in all different areas. And that's a good thing too. Always be learning, always be improving, and always learn how to do things a little better, because when you improve, things definitely get easier and more comfortable. Yeah, so make sure to join me every Tuesday at 12 for dangerous conversations about sales to help your business move forward. Next week, my guest is Julie Simbro. She is the president of Ace Mystery Shopping. That's going to be a fun conversation. So, bye, everybody. Thank you, and be fabulous today.
To your sales success.
Yes.